Welcome to HitchPod, the podcast where we're watching every movie ever made through the lens of Alfred Hitchcock. This episode is from our Patreon back catalogue, originally recorded in January 2021 as the third instalment of a season of Hitchcock-esque films. It's Stanley Donen's Charade, starring Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. If you enjoy this episode and want to catch up faster, or just want to hear what we're watching right now, you can find us at patreon.com/hitchpod for $2 a month. Go on, pay the $2. Here's the episode.
Have you ever had a premonition, a feeling that something dreadful was about to happen?
Want to hear one of my ideas for a perfect murder?
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Jumped in the bay, you didn't know where you were. You guessed, but you didn't know.
I didn't jump, I fell.
Well, here we are again.
Yes.
Recommend anything?
This is HitchPod bonus episode. I'm Kat Jones and I'm here with Dan Liebke, and usually in this podcast we watch a Hitchcock movie, but today in our special bonus episode we're watching a Hitchcock-inspired episode as voted by our wonderful supporters at Patreon, and the bonus movie we've chosen to talk about today, as voted by Patreon supporters, is Charade, directed by Stanley Donen.
Yes. So just going into the details of Charade, it was made in 1963. It's got an IMDb rating of 7.9 out of 10 and a pretty spectacular Rotten Tomatoes rating of 94%, although, of course, as with most of these things, a lot of those are newer people, newer ratings.
Driven by our clever
Yes.
listeners to this podcast.
Yes. I did found a review at the time, though, from the New York Times.
Yeah.
This review said, Peter Stone, and this one was actually quite positive for the most part. Peter Stone, a new chap, has written a screenplay that is packed with sudden twists, shocking gags, eccentric engagements, and occasionally bright and brittle lines, and blah, blah, blah.
Occasionally,
yes.
scathing.
It's a style that is somewhere between that of the screwball comedy of the 1930s and that of Alfred Hitchcock on a North by Northwest course.
He's comparing it to a silent screwball movie.
Well, yeah, so somewhere between that and the North by Northwest, which is reasonably accurate.
Yeah.
Although he did mention that it also was a little bit grisly at times.
Ah, interesting. Well, I've got a slightly negative review
yeah, cool.
from I presume from the era. This critic was called Bosley Crowther. What fantastic name.
That's a great name.
A bit sort of not so kind about Audrey Hepburn's performance. So stating, Hepburn is cheerfully committed to a mood of how nuts can you be in an obviously comforting assortment of expensive Givenchy costumes.
She did have a lot of expensive clothes.
And I guess she did a little bit of how nuts can you be, but
Yeah.
on the whole she was a smart thing.
Yeah, she was perfectly charming.
Yeah, she was.
Was nominated for one Academy Award. Just a nomination. Best Original Song.
Is that a consolation nomination?
I don't know.
Is
maybe.
anyone really happy to only get a nomination for song?
Yeah. Well,
Like Que Sera Sera?
yeah.
I guess Que Sera Sera.
Yeah, exactly. And both Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn were nominated at the Golden Globes, and Hepburn also won a BAFTA for Best British Actress.
Huh,
there you go.
excellent. She did have a bit of a British accent in this, I noticed, even though she was supposed to be from the US, I think.
I don't know where she was supposed to be from.
Yeah, she was a stranger in Paris.
Yes,
She wasn't.
She was. Yes, she
yeah.
certainly wasn't French. Yes.
Yeah, the Charade, the actual song, is a sad, lonely Parisian waltz, is how it's described. The music, of course, in the movie was by Henry Mancini, and the lyrics were by Johnny Mercer. It was released in December 1963 and actually was quite popular. Now, Stanley Donen had heard, the reason he chose Henry Mancini's song, or chose him to be the composer is Henry Mancini had just released Baby Elephant Walk
Oh, okay.
from the movie Hatari! And so there's a scene in the movie where Audrey returns from this sort of happy holiday she'd been on to her Paris flat, and it's stripped of everything. And as she enters this dimly lit apartment,
You could imagine the Baby Elephant Walk.
she doesn't get the Baby Elephant Walk. She gets the Charade music, the sad, lonely waltz. And so, the director talked about it being a nice moment there that he thought of. It was really effective.
And Mancini did the Pink Panther theme as well, so
He's very clever.
Yeah. Well, you can get this movie. It's in the public domain, so anybody can watch this for free. So if you're listening, we'll probably include a link as we send this one out. It'll be in the show notes, I imagine.
Yeah. And they should actually do a movie about why
is
it available in the public domain, because it's really fascinating. Yeah. It's almost a better twist than any in the actual movie. So why is it in the public
essentially
domain?
Some lawyer who was in charge of this or somebody failed to put the word copyright, or the symbol C in the circle anywhere on the movie. And at the time, so before 1978, if you didn't have any of those three things on there, you went straight into the public domain, which is what happened to this movie. So it wasn't actually copyrighted, which means we can all watch it by just going somewhere on the web. I'm sure if you search for Charade public domain, you will find it very easily.
Although the best quality production of this, it's worth seeing a really good imprint of it. It feels like that was a mistake that wouldn't have been made if it was Hitchcock.
No, you would imagine not. No, and also technically, I think the soundtrack is still copyrighted. So Mancini's not giving that up. He maybe he put on the soundtrack album. He was very careful to put his C or copyright or copper.
Oh, very clever.
Yes. So yes, if you do want a non public domain version for some reason, you can get it via iTunes or Amazon. And apparently Criterion has a Blu-ray which has an audio commentary featuring both the director and the screenwriter. So
we have to go looking for that. That'd be really great.
Yes. So it stars Cary Grant. He plays, to begin with, he plays Peter Joshua. He does have a few name changes.
He does multiple characters,
yes. As you mentioned, it has Audrey Hepburn, who plays Reggie, and has Walter Matthau, who plays Hamilton Bartholomew.
Another fabulous name, and he's the CIA operative.
Yes.
At least to start with.
Yes. No spoilers just yet, but yes, we're going to get there. And there are multiple other characters as well, but they're probably the three main ones. The synopsis for the movie: romance and suspense ensue in Paris as a woman is pursued by several men who want a fortune her murdered husband has stolen. Whom can she trust? I like the whom in there.
Yeah, that's a good synopsis too. That's accurate.
Yeah, it's very good. Had some taglines as well. Is anyone really who they seem to be? Question mark.
No.
And you can expect the unexpected when they play Charade is another tagline.
Right.
And one more. Please don't tell who did what to whom. Okay.
That could almost be the tagline of any movie ever.
Yeah. Well, any spoilerified movie. So as mentioned, the writer is Peter Stone. He did the screenplay. It's based on a story by Stone and Mark Bem. And Stone also had other major credits. He also did The Taking of Pelham 123, which is kind of a classic crime thriller. Some dudes trying to heist a train, I'm led to believe. I haven't actually seen that one. He also did a movie called Skin Game, which is not the Hitchcock one, presumably.
Huh.
As you mentioned, it's directed by Stanley Donen, who had plenty of other major credits. On the Town, Singing in the Rain, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, Funny Face, The Pajama Game, Bedazzled. So he was a big deal at the time.
Yeah, he could be the next director we're going to
you reckon?
move on to. He's done some fabulous stuff.
Lots of musicals in there. Yeah.
Look, musicals pre-1970 work perfectly fine.
Right, okay.
It's just the post-1970 musicals that I have more of a problem with.
I'll take your word on that one. And the style, it's a comedy / mystery / romance / thriller.
Indeed it is.
So hopefully that's enticed you all to at least go download the public domain and watch it. Stream, have a look at it, watch the entire movie, and come back and listen to us for the rest of it, because we're about to go into spoiler mode.
Into spoiler zone. And it is a very Hitchcock. I mean, this has been selected by some discerning Hitchcock lovers.
Yep.
And it is absolutely as Hitchcock as they come without it being directed by Hitchcock.
Yep. And we start with a very Hitchcockian opening scene of some poor guy just being hurled out of a train, rolling down the hill. He's dead.
This is the pre-credit.
This is pretty
roll,
much it,
yeah.
the pre-credit, yeah. And after this guy's been thrown out of the train to his death, we move to the French Alps. This is where we meet Reggie, as we mentioned, played by Audrey Hepburn. And she's talking to one of her friends about how she's just about ready to divorce her husband. She's had enough of him, which is pretty good timing because guess who's just about to pop into her life? It's Cary Grant, and he's playing the very charming Peter Joshua. And the two of them have a little bit of a flirtation on the French Alps, as one tends to do. After that, Reggie heads back to Paris, and that's when she discovers that her apartment is completely empty. It's just been stripped of all furniture, all everything. It's nothing in there. And this is also where we meet Police Inspector Grandpierre. He shows up and tells Reggie that her husband, Charles, he was the guy in the opening scene. He was the one being thrown out of a train.
And no need to divorce him anymore.
No need for divorce because he's very dead. But more curiously, the reason the house is empty is that he sold all their belongings for $250,000. I think this is US dollars at the time. And nobody can find the money. They don't know where it was. They've searched everywhere, and the money is completely missing.
Now, that's the equivalent these days to over $2 million. I had a quick look. $2 million,
yep, okay.
$250,000, $2 million.
Yep.
So, yeah, significant.
Yeah, not something...
Doesn't sound so great in the movie, but it's a lot of money.
Yeah. So the big mystery is, where's this money? What can we do with it? Anyway, so we head off to the wake for this poor dead man. And this is where pretty much the only people there are Reggie and her friend from the opening scene. And also a few other mysterious men who begin to show up, and they all go up to the coffin. It's an open coffin, and they all check to see if he's really dead. They poke him with pins and sneeze in his face, and do all kinds of things to see if he'll react, and just to make sure he's dead. And they all wander off after that. So that's a little bit of a peculiar scene. And then Reggie's summoned to the U.S. Embassy by CIA Administrator Hamilton Bartholomew. This is Walter Matthau. And this is where he explains to her that all those other men that she saw at the funeral, at the wake, were former OSS colleagues of her husband, OSS being the predecessor to the CIA. And apparently during the war, those three men, another man who we will discover later, and the husband, they all plotted to steal some gold that they were supposed to smuggle into the French resistance. Instead, they all tried to steal it. Well, what actually happened was that her husband, Reggie's husband, double-crossed a lot of them. One of them got shot and left for dead. The other three were just left alone, and he escaped with all the money. And that's basically where he got his fortune from to begin with.
It's a pretty good prequel.
That's a great prequel.
They should make a movie out of that.
That's a very good idea. Yeah, we definitely need to organise that. Anyway, these three surviving men who were betrayed by Reggie's husband are now trying to track down the money that he stole from them. Well, stole from the French resistance and then from them as well. They feel the money's owed to them. So
it's fabulous, though, because it's not their money either.
No,
it's actually a really great plot point there.
Yes, so the CIA agent Bartholomew, he makes it very clear that if Reggie doesn't find the money, these men are probably going to kill her to get it. Because so that's a very good MacGuffin setup. Where is this money that we're all looking for? And around about this stage, Peter, that's Cary Grant, he pops back into Reggie's life. He helps her find an apartment to stay in because her house has basically been left empty. They go on a date and over to like some kind of nightclub where they dance and play games, passing oranges between people's throats for a little bit of comedy. And over the course of that evening, these other three men from the wake show up, and they keep popping up, and they basically all threaten Reggie. They say, "You better find that money and give it to me, or you'll be in big trouble." And pretty much they all head, when Peter and Reggie head back to her room, one of those men is there, and Peter has a scuffle with him and basically chases him out of the window, and he disappears. And Peter follows that man out the window, and he leaps from balcony to balcony into a room a couple of doors down, a couple of windows down in the same building. And that's where all three of those men are hanging out together, and we discover that Peter knows all three of them. He tells them that they need to back off from hassling Reggie. He's on the job. He's worked his way into her life, and he's going to work her over and get the money in a slightly more con artisty, charming way.
Romantic way.
Romantic way, yes.
He wants to sleep with her first.
Yeah. Then get the money. Yeah, why not? So they're not overly keen on that idea, but they figure that may be the best way to go about it. Perhaps the one who's least keen on that idea is a man called Scobie. And Scobie has a hook for a hand. He's the
How
one.
on earth did you remember which one went with which name?
Wikipedia. Scobie sneaks off and he calls Reggie on the telephone, and he says, "You shouldn't trust this Peter guy. He's bad news. He's can't be trusted." So Reggie's now a little bit suspicious of Peter, and next day follows him to investigate what he's up to. And eventually, after following him around for a little bit, she calls him on a there's a, what would you call it?
This
Series
is after
of
his
phone
CIA.
booths.
This is after her CIA agent friend says women make the best agents.
Yes,
so
that's true.
she
Spies.
dresses up in a trench coat and follows him around, which is glorious.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, it's a very good scene.
And the Pink Panther theme should have been
Yeah,
playing.
definitely should have been there. So she follows him around, and eventually they're basically both on ends of like a series of phone booths. And she calls him up on the phone booth. She pages him to come to the phone and tells him, that she knows he's not to be trusted. And Peter tries to explain that he's actually the brother of Carson Dial, and Carson Dial was the one in the original robbery of the French Resistance who was shot and left for dead. So.
And he says he wants his money too.
Yeah, and he's basically explaining, all right, I'm the brother of this Carson Dial person. My name is actually Alexander. It's not Peter. It's Alexander. And my plan is to sneak into these guys and bring them all to justice, and that's the plan. But before he can get around to any of that, he ends up on the roof of a building with Scobie, and there's a little bit of a scuffle. Scobie had shown up with a gun while he was in the middle of this phone call and taken him to the roof and trying to throw him off. Peter eventually wins that fight and leaves Scobie dangling by one hook off the edge of the building. And then he heads back to see Reggie, and that's when they discover that the other two men, who are apparently named Gideon and Tex, they've taken the son of Reggie's friend from the opening scene hostage. Which sounds pretty dire, but it's actually a very casual kidnapping.
It's very casual, isn't it?
It's more like babysitting.
They can't wait to get rid of this kid, actually. And I think they bring Reggie in deliberately in order for her to actually look after him.
Yeah. So they all show up. Reggie and Peter / Alexander and Gideon and Ted and this kid, they're all there, and they say, all right, we're just going to search for the room for the money. We kind of believe you that you don't know where the money is either. We're all just going to search the room. But instead what they actually find is Scobie, who's now drowned in the bathtub. So that's one death.
I think they find his claw, his hook in a case on the top of the wardrobe as well. All of this is wonderful misdirection at every turn.
Yes. Anyway, the death of Scobie doesn't particularly stop Reggie and Peter / Alexander from flirting. They continue to go on. But before I can get too much further along, the CIA guy, Bartholomew, he phones Reggie again. Lots of telephone action in this. And he tells her that Carson Dial never had a brother. So this is yet another mystery, another reason for Reggie to get suspicious. So she confronts Peter / Alexander at dinner, and he admits that actually, coming clean here, I'm actually just a professional thief and my name is Adam.
He should have been John Roby from To Catch a Thief. That would have been a better twist. But anyway,
yes,
we'll accept Adam.
Anyway, this so basically their frank discussion about their relationship and who the hell Cary Grant really is. It's interrupted by yet another murder. This time it's the second of the three men, that's Gideon. And again, the police inspector's furious that someone else has died out of these three, and he summons the two of them in and he gives them a bit of a talking to about stop all this murder that's going on. And he also points out that the third man of the group, Tex, has gone missing. So Reggie and Peter / Alexander / Adam, they're going to try and find the money now just to put an end to all this nonsense. They've had enough of all this. And they use Reggie's late husband's appointment book, and they find an outdoor market that he attended just before he died. And that's where Peter / Alexander / Adam, he spots a stamp selling market. And that's where he realizes that the husband must have converted the money to stamps, because in one of his belongings there was an envelope which had stamps on it, and that was a clue as to how he might have converted the money. So he's bought some very precious stamps, he's put them on an envelope, he's kept that with his belongings, and everybody has overlooked it until now.
And they pretty much all worked it out at the same time, didn't they?
Yes.
Tex.
So Tex is also there.
Cary Grant and Reggie.
Yes, and Tex and Cary Grant, they both race back to Reggie's place. But Reggie is, and that's where they discover that Reggie has given the stamps to the young, annoying kidnapped boy, Jean-Louis.
I do like how this young boy keeps popping up in a beautiful thread throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, he's an integral part of the plot.
Yeah.
You can't really do it without him. And it turns out that Jean-Louis is back at the stamp market and he's looking to sell the stamps that Reggie's just given him. And around about now is where Reggie, because she's at the stamp market, she's also worked out the significance of the stamps that her dead husband left behind. And she's very charmingly convinces the stamp seller that he should just give these, $250,000 worth of stamps back to her, despite the fact this small child has just given them away. And he's very cool about it, the stamp seller. He said, I was just happy to hold them for a little bit.
Yeah, that was a beautiful scene, wasn't it?
So she gets the stamps back and she races back to tell Peter/Alexander/Adam. And that's when they all discover, that's when she discovers Tex's dead body. And Tex has written the name Dial on the carpet. So this,
and Tex, of course, thought that Cary Grant was Dial,
yes.
so that's fairly damning.
Yes, indeed. And so this pretty much finally convinces Reggie that Peter/Alexander/Adam is definitely no good for real, proper this time. He's very bad news. So she runs away from him. There's a little bit of chasing on the underground railway station. And eventually he chases her all the way to the colonnade of the Palais Royal. That's where Bartholomew, the CIA man, has agreed to meet her and get these stamps back. But this is where we discover that actually it's Bartholomew who isn't a real CIA agent either. Instead, it's Bartholomew is Carson Dial. He survived this attempted murder from the others, recovered, and now he's survived the betrayal from Reggie's husband, the three other men, and now he's going to get this money back. And
he's basically killing everyone else off until he
Yes.
gets it back, isn't he?
Yes. And around about now, this is where Peter/Alexander/Adam shows up, and he tells Reggie, no, you can't trust him. And she's kind of torn between the two because he's saying, no, you can't trust.
And they're both terrible liars, so fair
they're
enough.
both big liars, yeah. And Reggie finally gives up on the pair of them. There's a little bit of gunplay, and she just flees into the opera house. Bartholomew/Dial follows, and Peter/Alexander/Adam also follows, and through a contrived series of events, ends up with Peter/Alexander/Adam beneath the stage, where he can see all a variety of trapdoors that are built into the stage, and he can also hear Bartholomew/Dial creaking around on the stage above him, and eventually he works out where he's standing just in time to pull the trapdoor and have him plummet to his death or just breaking his legs.
Something serious.
Either way, he's incapacitated, no longer a problem. And so the next day, Reggie and Peter/Alexander/Adam can head off to the embassy to return the stamps. That's going to be the end of it. Peter/Alexander/Adam lets Reggie go in without him. He said that's fine. Because when she gets into the building to give the stamps back, she discovers that, wait a sec, he's there again, and his name's not Peter, his name's not Alexander, and his name's not Adam. His name is apparently Brian Cruikshank, and he's a government official who's been on this job the entire time just trying to recover the stamps. That's his job.
And he must have some exceptional training to do this job, right?
An incredible amount of training. I
mean, basically in this kind of post-war Europe, everyone would have had combat training, probably.
I guess so, but it's quite an effort from Brian, as we now learn his name is. So Peter/Alexander/Adam/Brian proposes marriage. Reggie smiles. She doesn't quite pick up on the proposed marriage to begin with, but she eventually does, and then she happily agrees, and then she suggests that they're going to need to have a lot of sons because she wants to name them all after his variety of names. And that's the end of the movie.
That was have a drink. That was a very long recap, a long and torrid recap. There were a lot of twists and turns to this movie.
A lot of twists and details.
All of them worked. All of them worked. It was really incredible.
Usually I try to cut the synopsis down as briefly as possible so I don't have to talk for too long, but you've still got to keep the key plot points in there, and there were just so many with all those twists.
Yeah, so how Hitchcock do you think this movie is?
It's very Hitchcock, isn't it? It's basically, the whole reason it was put up for nomination is because it's included in I scoured lists of movies that are Hitchcock-esque without being directed by Hitchcock, and it appeared in pretty much every list. It's very, very famously a Hitchcock movie not directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
And I did go looking to see whether Hitchcock had an opinion about it. I couldn't find anything.
Okay.
So if anyone out there knows what Hitchcock thought of this movie,
it
would be fascinating to know. It's probably hidden in a book somewhere.
Perhaps, yes. I did some tracking down. I discovered in the Mad magazine parody of this movie.
Is there one? Is there
Yep.
really?
They also acknowledge that this is very Hitchcockian because they make fun of a character named Stanley Donen, and they reveal in the Mad parody that he's actually Alfred Hatchplot in disguise. So there you go.
Oh, that's brilliant. That would have been a good twist.
Yeah.
A good additional twist.
Yeah.
And I think you said it also reminded you of another couple of movies.
Yeah, it definitely reminded me a little bit of a Fish Called Wanda, mostly in the way that the various criminals don't trust one another and they're all trying to play one another and work out. That was more at the beginning. It kind of lost that thread a little bit as it went along. And just the sheer amount of reversals of plot reminded me a little bit of there was a movie in the 90s, a very erotic thriller called Wild Things, which in between all the sex scenes had a lot of very big plot twists. So it was
never even heard of that movie.
It's a good movie. It's a lot of plot twists. Very very Hitchcocky in a way. There's you think this is happening, then no. 10 minutes later, no, something else is happening. No, someone else is in charge.
Oh, maybe we'll have to add that to our list.
Maybe
it reminded me a lot of that British TV series that I love called Hustle from the early 2000s. In fact, I think it went from 2004 for about 10 years, and the fact that there was so many people pretending to be other people is very reminiscent of Hustle.
Yes. And apparently the movie actually started as a script. It was originally called The Unsuspecting Wife. Which
that's a terrible name.
It's a terrible name. Maybe that's the reason why they couldn't sell it. So this was Stone and the other guy who originally came up with the plot. His name eludes me. So because they couldn't sell it with that dreadful title, Stone took it away and he rewrote it as a novel. And then that novel was serialized in a magazine called Red Book, and that got enough buzz that Hollywood came knocking on his door and said, "Hey, we'd really like to make this movie because that's Hollywood."
And all along, they probably just needed to say, "This is exactly like a Hitchcock," and they might have got a bit further. They probably didn't say that back then.
Yep. Yes.
Wowee. And it was really at a moment in time. This is a couple of weeks after JFK was assassinated when it was released. It was really a crazy time that it's hard to imagine what that was like.
Yes, they had to redub Audrey Hepburn's line. She has a line which says, "At any moment we could be assassinated," which was probably a little bit close to the bone at that time. So they redubbed that as "At any moment we could be eliminated." I think there are various different kinds. I think so that the version with the assassinated line
could be out there.
appears on DVDs. I can't remember which one was on the public domain version.
No, I didn't notice. One of the things I love about this is I love the way that it wasn't Reggie, Audrey Hepburn, that wanted the money. She couldn't give a shit about the money. Like, she really didn't care.
Yep.
She had a job before she met this dude.
Yep.
After a divorce, she'd planned to go back to her job as a universal translator for the
That's
United
right. I forgot
Nations.
She was a universal translator.
And she was quite happy. No alarm about losing her fortune particularly. She's not a gold digger, just totally happy to go back to her job. And in fact, she is working in her job at one point. She goes straight back to it. So I really love that small point, but I really loved it.
Do you think she'd miss the trips to the French Alps, or would she still be able to afford to go there with her I don't know how well universal translators were paid in the 1960s.
No, I think you'd probably need your $2 million fortune for that.
Maybe, yeah. And the age difference between Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. So he was 59 and she was 33. And apparently it was Cary Grant who found this a little bit awkward about them being portrayed as potential love interests. So he was the one who suggested they needed to add dialogue to say, "All right, I can't be involved with you. I'm too old for you." And so she was portrayed as the one always coming on to him, and he was like, "No, I'm old enough to be your love."
I mean, he was happy enough at age 49 to be paired with someone who was 33.
Yeah.
So I think it was just that little bit of a stretch too far. And it worked. I mean, of course, there is some horrendous examples of Harrison Ford paired with a 17-year-old. And, there's some terrible examples.
I think there was one with Sean Connery, like in his 80s, with Catherine Zeta-Jones in her mid-30s or something.
There has been some terrible examples. So I'm really, impressed with Cary Grant for refusing to go beyond the 20-year age gap, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, the humour in this was fabulous.
Yeah,
it was a
very,
very funny movie. And Audrey Hepburn, of course, just an absolute master at comedy. The twinkly kind of mischief comedy, I guess, the screwball. So some of my favourite comedy moments I just want to run you through. The opening scene with the misdirection. So the husband's been thrown off the train, and then there's a gun peering around the corner at her in the French Alps, but it was just a water pistol.
Yep.
That was
wielded
wonderful.
by that obnoxious child.
That's right. There was all the bad behaviour at the funeral. Someone was clipping their nails, and the policeman, I think, said at least he knows how to behave at funerals, and then he gets out the nail clippers. times. All of the guys, checking their death with mirror, sticking them with a pin. The passing the orange scene at the nightclub was really quite amusing, or probably more so back then.
Yeah, it was very slapsticky.
Yeah, and as was Cary Grant having a shower in a suit, which wasn't my favourite moment.
No, that didn't really work for me either.
But it was, it was a lovely slapstick again, a lovely screwball moment. The fact that Reggie was always eating to calm her nerves was really lovely. And they said that Audrey Hepburn was often, it was actually a feature of her normal character as an actress. She was often always eating.
Okay.
At the embassy, the fake CIA agent Hamilton, was his name Hamilton?
Yes.
Yes. Eating sandwiches and drinking wine, and you don't realise till the end that wasn't his sandwiches, it wasn't his wine.
Yes.
It was wonderful. He was busy offering her food, and he just invaded that office, which was just a delight to look back on.
Yes, it was Hamilton Bartholomew.
That's right, of course. The fact that, King Cary Grant saying things to Reggie like, you're probably weak from hunger, you've only eaten 5 times today. The ice cream into Cary Grant's suit.
Apparently that was based on something that actually happened. She really did spill it onto his thing, and they thought, well, this is amusing. We'll put this in the movie as well.
I mean, the fun moments when she followed him in the white trench coat, women make the best spies or agents.
And then she kept sitting beside that, was it a German guy who just thought she was coming onto him, and then she'd disappear again. So yes, that was very funny.
And so if you don't like the visual humour, there was plenty of verbal humour that we'll get to as well. It was a really good, well-rounded
it was great.
Comedy. Whatever happened to Police Detective Grandpierre?
I think he just got fed up with everybody being murdered, and he was just like
presumably came to clean up after.
Once
Carson
Bartholomew
fell on the ground.
Yeah. Yes. Now, Charade was Donen's most financially successful film. So he'd had all these other massive hits beforehand, all those musicals we mentioned. And this was basically him in an era where he was breaking free of that studio deal. So he had a deal, I think it was with MGM.
Yep.
And he broke free of that, and
he could do what he wanted.
He could do what he wanted,
right.
and he made this movie. He'd made a couple of others before then, but this was his most successful one. And then he followed it up with another movie in a very similar vein called Arabesque, and it starred Gregory Peck and Sophia Loren, and apparently had a very similar Hitchcockian formula.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that movie as well.
Yeah, and apparently that one also got an uncredited rewrite by Peter Stone, who wrote Charade.
But it wasn't as successful as Charade in the end. Yeah. I mean, so Charade had suspense right to the end. You truly were going, who's killing whom? And is Cary Grant a bad guy? Because maybe he is. If you didn't know about the Hays Code, he could have been a bad guy. It was really quite interesting, the way they kept that suspense going all the way to the end.
When was Suspicion made? Suspicion had Cary Grant as a bad guy, didn't it? And he was a sneaky bad guy.
Earlier.
Interesting.
Yep. So apparently the director Donen disliked the comparisons between Charade and Hitchcock. So we know a little bit about...
Probably read that Mad magazine parody.
And I guess he wanted to be, Hitchcock is like me, I'm not like him. But of course, many comparisons. So some of the other comparisons, the fact that it was a wrong woman thriller, the use of the landmarks around Paris was a very Hitchcockian touch as well. Notre Dame, the boat cruise on the Seine, the Champs-Elysees, etc. The use of the charismatic leads is very Hitchcockian appeal as well. Now the camera work, some of the that point of view we had the point of view from the corpse as it rolled back into the morgue, which was really incredible.
That was very early on, wasn't it? That was when she went to identify her husband's body.
Yeah, that was really incredible. The echo of the dialogue when the boat went under the bridge was really wonderful. Some really great rear projection on that.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was very good. Yes.
Yeah, so as the boat goes under the bridge, lots of obvious echoing. Of course, the wardrobe, not just Audrey Hepburn's wardrobe, but Cary Grant's wardrobe was amazing too. At one point, he gets into the white trench coat and he's running around and looking amazing in that as well. Little Hitchcock sort of touches, like when the gaggle of nuns gets in the way during the foot chase.
Yeah, that bit reminded me of Batman when he was trying to get rid of a bomb.
Yeah, but that's probably Batman, an homage to Charade.
Almost certainly is, yeah.
And also, gaggles of nuns do get in the way quite often. Not as often these days as they used to.
No.
And as you said, the pre-credit scene was definitely very Hitchcock.
Yes.
And also just that Henry Mancini's jazzy sort of upbeat tempo on the soundtrack, and the credits at the very start was very much like Vertigo, I thought, as well.
Yeah.
So just one more comment on Universal Pictures. The violence was a bit too much for them in this movie. So even though Hitchcock, does get away with murder, this
Exclamation
film,
mark.
yeah. Exclamation mark. This was a little bit too much for the studio. So Donen said, "Oh, look, I'm sure it'll be fine. Everyone else gets away with it. We'll be fine." And the studio said, "No, we've got to preview this with some audiences to see whether they'll cope with this rooftop scene and all of the dead bodies, because of course the bad guys are getting killed the whole way along."
And some of the deaths were pretty gruesome. Like some guy was like choked with a plastic bag over his head.
Yeah. They were pretty gruesome. And they were interspersed with the humour. And the studio didn't think that was going to work with audiences. So they did 2 preview screenings, and apparently the audience said, "Nah, totally fine. The violence is fine. We're laughing a few minutes later. It'll be fine." But apparently Stone and Donen did a bit of manipulation of the feedback cards.
Really?
The audience.
That's
So
fantastic.
that's a great story. Again, we don't know if this is absolutely true.
Yeah.
But I read this in a couple of places. So.
I like that. I also like. It's just occurred to me that one area where Donen's not particularly like Hitchcock is that he seems to be still getting along with his screenwriter
He
very
does,
much until the time the
deep
movie's
into the
coming out.
movie. It's very unusual. Yeah.
So moving on to best lines.
Yes, and there's lots of these. And I feel like these are some of the biggest classic comedy exchanges in
There's
history.
some really good ones, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's a couple of good running gags of just repeated lines over and over. So I think my favourite one of those running gags was basically whenever Cary Grant came up with a new name, which was
3 or 4
regular,
times,
3 or 4 times, Reggie would say, "Is there a Mrs. X?" After he said that, and he would always reply, "Yes, but we're divorced."
Yeah.
And then when he finally gets to his last name, which I've already forgotten,
Crookshank.
Crookshank, that's right. She says, "Is there a Mrs. Crookshank?" And he says, "Yes." And he doesn't add, "But we're divorced." And she her heart kind of falls. Oh no! All along I've just been hankering after this man who I can't have. And then he confesses, "No, but it's my mother." And then he shows her a photo, and then he proposes.
Yeah.
So that was a good running gag.
It was there was quite a few good running gags. The running gag of the "Aren't you a spy? No, I'm an agent."
Yes, that was very good.
Which was particularly good when you find out that he wasn't either.
Yes.
And that's why the confusion really ensued there.
Yep, that was very good.
Yeah. Going right back to the very start, some wonderful witty in their meet cute. There's some really nice sort of lines here with Cary Grant saying about the precocious child, "Can't he do something constructive like start an avalanche?" Which is great. And when she's talking to her friend, she says, "Look, I think I'm going to get a divorce." And the friend says, "A divorce? What, from Charles?" And she replies, "He's the only husband I have," which was a lovely line.
Yep.
And then her friend says, "It's infuriating that your dismay hasn't turned to fat," which is a very French thing to say.
Yeah.
When Cary Grant turns up, and I can't remember any of his names, I'm just going to call him Cary Grant.
Yeah, that's fair.
She said, Audrey Hepburn says, "Do we know each other?" Because he comes up and chats to her and he says, "I don't know, do we?" And she says, "Well, I already know an awful lot of people. Until one dies, I couldn't possibly fit you in." So, which is actually a good precursor as well.
It's very good seeing as a husband has literally just died.
That's right. And then he replies with, "Well, if someone goes on the critical list, let me know." And then she calls him, as he wanders off, she calls him a quitter, which is a beautiful scene. Cary actually says early on, at this point, "Is there a Mr. Lambert?" And Audrey says, "I'm getting a divorce." And he replies, "Please not on my account." Which is a great line. Yeah. And that is a line that does recur in subsequent movies as well. Early on as well, there's a lot of these. I'm just going to keep going with them. When they find the possessions of the dead husband on the train, the police detective said, "Well, there was a letter from your dead husband." They read it out and it sort of says, "And plus your dentist appointment has been cancelled." And then with great aplomb, the detective says, "Well, and we called your dentist." And she says, "And?" And he says, "Your appointment has been changed." It This is wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful letdown.
And that's some kind of misdirection about the envelope. It's like we'll make a joke out of that so you don't think about the stamps that are on it.
That's right. The fact that the letter hasn't been posted, which was perfectly natural because he was thrown off the train before he could post it.
Yep.
Just absolutely, he must have known he was going to get killed. It's wonderful all around, actually. The plot has very few holes, I found. Fewer holes than a Hitchcock, right?
That's true, yeah.
The main plot hole, I thought, was why he didn't just put the money in a Swiss bank account to start with.
Oh, and why does Cary Grant come up with all these different aliases?
Why does he
given
bother?
his real job?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
it's a post-war thing. There's a lot more. There's a lot more lines here. So when she's meeting Hamilton Bartholomew at the start in his fake office, she says, "If you're trying to frighten me," and then she says, "You're doing a first-rate job." So that was a nice. Just her timing also on that is terrific. She says at another time, "I don't bite, unless it's called for."
yep.
And some other lovely lines again that reoccur in movies forevermore. "Do you know what's wrong with you?" And then she sort of does dreamy eyelid batting at him and says, "Nothing." "I got your suit all wet," she says to Cary Grant. He replies, "It's okay, it's a drip dry."
Yes. And that's why he proves it later on by showering in it.
Yeah, really great. When he comes off the fight on the roof with the hook guy, Scobie.
Yep.
"What happened to your suit?" she says. And he says, "I met a man with sharp nails. Then I left him hanging around the American Express."
Yes, because he's torn the back of
he's torn the back of his shirt and I think torn some of his skin as well. Yeah. And then just riffing again on the is there a Mrs. Dial when she finds out his name, and he says, "We're divorced," and she replies, "Hang on, I thought that was Peter Joshua." And he says, "I'm just as difficult to live with as he was." I wonder how many times Cary Grant in these various movies is divorced. He seems to be divorced in every single movie we watch.
Yes.
At least 1 or 2 or 3 times. When they're going out for dinner, Cary Grant tells her, "Let me know what you want to eat so I can pick out a suit that matches." Which is really great. That's after the ice cream ends up on there. And when he is showering in the suit, she says, "I can think of a dozen men that are longing to use my shower." And Cary Grant replies, "Why don't you invite them over?" Which is
Apparently, Cary Grant was married 5 times, so presumably he was divorced at least 4.
Oh, that's fabulous. And more times in his movies. So that was a very convincing line of his.
Yeah.
And in North by Northwest as well. So, yeah, it's going well. When the police Grand Pierre comes at about the 3rd or 4th body that they found of the co-conspirator criminals, the policeman says, "Where were you when this death happened?" And Cary Grant says, "In my room asleep." And Audrey Hepburn says, "And I was too." And the policeman said, "In Mr. Dial's room?" "Well, obviously," and she says, "No." And then he says, "Well, obviously you're lying. Who would believe such a ridiculous story?" Which is really wonderful. And again, just riffing again on the name changes, she says, "I love you, Adam." And Cary Grant goes, "Yes, I know, you told me." And she says, "No, last time I said I love you, Alex." Which is really great. And then at the very end, again, riffing on the names and the role changes, where he's saying, "You've got to trust me." And she says, "I'm sorry, I thought you were the murderer. How was I to know Hamilton Bartholomew was as big a liar as you were?" And again, last quote, "Brian Cruikshank," she says, "serves me right if I get stuck with that one." Which is the worst name.
Yep.
So, yeah, sorry about all those quotes, but it was very hard to narrow them down.
Yeah, lots of great
They
quotes.
were really great.
All right, moving on. Let's go through the Bechdel test. Does this one pass?
Well, it has to have 2 named women in it who talk to each other about something other than a man. So those 3 criteria. And the Bechdel test website says it's a fail, that Reggie and her friend Sylvie talk, but only ever about men.
Yes. Do you think they talk about something else?
Yes, I actually don't believe. I think it does pass the Bechdel test. So they talk a lot about the child. Now the child,
it's a boy.
It's not a man, and the
that's
Bechdel test is about women talking about men
because they're obsessed with.
It's not women talking about children.
Yeah.
Or other things. So I think it's totally fine.
They could have had the exact same conversation if it was a little girl. Like that.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, any sort of child.
Yes.
So I think I actually wrote in my notes, Bechdel test passed in the first 5 minutes.
Yep.
And I didn't pay attention after that. It is true, though, there's no other women in it.
They're the only 2, yeah.
It's not great.
Yeah.
But Reggie's in every single
She's the
scene.
protagonist of the movie.
Absolutely the star of the movie and a very feisty young woman.
Yep.
So the fact that she doesn't talk to a lot of other women, I mean, you know, she at one point I think is doing the simultaneous translation. She's got another woman next to her, but there's not a lot of other women in the movie. But I think it still passes.
Yep.
I
Okay,
would
that's
say.
good. Technology, modern technology. How would it impact / improve / change the plot? I've got a couple here.
Well, there was a lot of old technology in this, wasn't there?
There
A lot
was.
There were old-fashioned lifts. There were a lot of phone booths. There was overhead paging.
Yep.
So yeah, what have you got for this one?
I think in this day and age, you certainly wouldn't put your $250,000 into stamps. You'd put them into Bitcoin, but you could have essentially the same plot with everybody trying to remember the password, because a lot of people seem to forget their Bitcoin password and can't access their millions.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yes.
I feel like she'd know. There was a great scene early on where the police inspector's saying, well, did your husband have any enemies? And she's just kept saying, I don't know. She seemed to know nothing about him. You got the impression they hadn't been together that long.
Yeah.
I reckon she'd know a lot more about her husband these days. She'd be sort of, while she's doing a simultaneous translation, she'd be on her phone and her computer stalking him on Facebook and Instagram. So I feel like she wouldn't be saying, I don't know anymore.
She would say, well, according to his LinkedIn,
he's got 5 followers. Yeah.
Yeah. I obviously, if you did set this in a more modern era, you'd have to have the money come from something other than World War II French resistance betrayers.
What would it come
so
from?
So if you're looking for somebody who has that kind of same kind of nasty, like the kind of people who would betray people fighting Nazis, so you're looking for guys who aren't particularly great. I think, if you're making it this day and age, you could probably get away with making it, some bankers who got bailout money after the 2009 financial crisis, because no one likes those guys.
No, that's right. That's very nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like these days too, Cary Grant wouldn't need to clamber out on a ledge from one hotel room to another. He'd just be in a WhatsApp group with the criminals. Surely.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like he wouldn't need to actually be there in the hotel room with them.
Definitely good.
Yeah.
I was very impressed. I mean, I was obviously a stuntman, but just the whole idea of that, he literally just leapt from one balcony to the next outside this building, which is the kind of thing you expect Jason Bourne or something to do. This is just
being able to do it in leather-soled shoes and a suit, even if it was drip dry, it's quite remarkable, particularly when he has a desk job.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, there was overhead paging and a phone booth, lots of phone booth action. I mean, again, they'd just be texting each other, surely.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed that was kind of from modern tech, it was kind of a reversal actually. It was the kiss. They did a kiss cam from the boat.
Oh, did they?
Remember they, you go to the baseball these days and they narrow down and zoom in on a man and a woman who may be brother and sister and make them kiss each other, and that's called kiss cam. Well, they did that from the boat going along. They turned off all the lights and they had the spotlight on the bank and they were spotting down on people who were actually kissing each other, and they did that 3 or 4 times. And I thought, wow, that's like an old-fashioned kiss cam.
The other thing that literally just occurred to me then was if she got really curious about him, she could probably have done a reverse image search and found out, they would have found the website where he works and realised what his real job was very early on.
That's right. The first image to come up would have been his LinkedIn photo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there we go. Tributes, homages, remakes. There was apparently a remake in 2002. It was called The Truth About Charlie.
Even as bad as The Unsuspecting Wife.
Yes. Yeah, this starred Marky Mark and Thandie Newton, and it was directed by Jonathan Demme, who did The Silence of the Lambs.
And it wasn't at all famous?
No, I have no memory of this movie. It had a Rotten Tomato score of 33%, so it was perhaps not.
Don't go watch that one.
Not a triumph. Yeah, definitely should be watching Charade rather than this or that version. Hitchcock movie checklist.
Yes, and our first thing on the checklist is the MacGuffin. And
the easiest MacGuffin in the world. A fantastic MacGuffin, yes.
Yeah.
The missing money. Everyone wants the money. The money's the key.
And the missing money it could have been a diamond. It could have been anything.
Could have been anything. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Could have been secrets to Russian. It could have been anything.
And it was an even better MacGuffin because everyone else wanted it except for the protag and us.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
She didn't want it, neither did we. We didn't care. But
Yep.
everyone else was in pursuit of it. So that's a perfect MacGuffin when
Yes.
the protagonist doesn't want it either.
Yep. Cameo. This one's a good one. There was a young man in the elevator who was talking about a poker game, and that young man.
And that was Alfred Hitchcock.
No, it wasn't Alfred Hitchcock. It wasn't even Alfred Hitchcock. It was screenwriter Peter Stone who was playing that role. And to double your cameo pleasure, his voice was actually the dubbed voice of Stanley Donen.
Wow.
So there you go.
What a great cameo.
I'm not quite sure why his voice had to be dubbed. I'm not sure whether that was deliberate to get the double cameo in or whether he just had a terrible voice. So it could have been either.
Interesting. Maybe he couldn't convincingly talk about poker.
Maybe he had no idea.
I vaguely remember that, but no.
It certainly didn't stand out. But then again, I miss just about every Hitchcock cameo as well. So I'm not surprised.
That's fantastic.
And apparently also during that dance game where they were passing the orange in the nightclub, in the background, Audrey Hepburn's husband was just hanging around.
Oh,
So
wow.
he was in the background smoking a cigarette. May not have even known he was on camera. Lead character at a standstill or on the run. So we have Reggie, who would very much like to be on the run, one would think, but she's literally not allowed to leave Paris. That was one of the things that the police chief said. You can't leave Paris. I need to sort all this out, all these murders out.
Yep.
So you can't leave. So she's pretty much stuck in Paris.
Yeah, and while still being on the run away from the bad guys originally. It's definitely a good version of that particular checklist item, stand still and on the run.
Yep. The characters with elements of good and bad. Who have we got here?
Well, it's definitely Cary Grant. I mean, we really didn't know till the very end if he was good or bad.
Yep.
He did switch many times during this.
Yeah, must have been at least half a dozen times, probably more, probably 7 or 8 times. We had a switch as to whether he's good, bad, what the story was.
And even when he said that, well, I am just a simple thief, you were expected to still like him, even though he was a charming rogue.
Yeah.
The CIA guy, Hamilton Bartholomew, of course, we thought was good all the way along, was bad.
Yep.
So that was really effective as well.
We have the ordinary man / mistaken identity. And we don't have an ordinary man in this case, do we?
Well, we really have Reggie as the classic kind of ordinary woman, right?
Yes,
so she's an innocent victim of other people's crimes. She doesn't want to be involved in this, and she's been mixed up in this caper, not knowing anything about what her husband has previously done, and totally innocent. So that was great. And then we also have the other mistaken identities, which is everything.
Not really mistaken. It's just Cary Grant being a big old liar.
That's right.
But yes, he keeps changing identities, so he makes other people mistake his identity.
Yes, but really a smart young woman, Reggie.
Very,
she also, cool. As well as being an ordinary woman, she's a smart young woman as well. So, and there's no one else really that fit that.
The bumbling cops.
Yeah, I mean, Jean-Pierre's more a jaded kind of...
He is, isn't he?
He's a classic...
But he's so jaded, he doesn't really seem to be investigating any of these murders.
No.
He's just kind of wagging his finger and saying, you two, I don't know if you're involved, but if you are, stop it. That's kind of the extent of his crime fighting.
And if you think there's money to be found, well, hurry up and find it. He didn't help, did he?
No. And if you want to extend bumbling cops to bumbling CIA, the CIA somehow let the real bad guy sneak into their offices and impersonate one of their agents and basically almost steal $250,000 from underneath their nose.
Yeah, look, I feel like this has been done many times before, but I think I am just thinking of the TV show Hustle, where most of the time they would sneak in, use a vacant office and pretend that was their base, and that was one of their most wonderful running themes. So I think that's probably where I've seen it so many times.
I've also, The Sting famously has a scene where they sneak in and get some guy out of their room and then sneak in, have an entire meeting and then just disappear.
Yeah.
Like they pretend to be painters, I think, and they're painting the room and they use that as an excuse to get out, and this poor guy comes back to a half-painted room that he's been conned out of. Staircases. There weren't that many staircases, were there?
No, lots of elevator rides, but we did have a lot of subway action with the stairs.
That's true, yeah. They're running up and down the stairs at the end, but I think I like the elevator ride more than the staircases. Plenty of vertical action.
Yeah. What other tropes have we got?
All right, so we went to the TV Tropes website, and they had a very long list. So I've just taken a few of my favourites here. We've got the deadpan snarker, who is Cary Grant.
Yeah.
And to a lesser extent, Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
The double reverse quadruple agent. which is probably a couple of people, but again, mostly Cary Grant.
Yeah.
The Dwindling Party, which is the three crooks who become two crooks who become one crook.
Yep.
Hidden in Plain Sight, which is, of course, the money in the stamp.
Yeah, that's great.
Hook Hand.
Yeah, Hook Hand. Well, who were some other famous hook hands apart from
the pirate
Captain Hook and
Yep.
in Peter Pan?
I feel like I've seen other hook hands in plenty of movies.
There's a few sci-fis with hook hands, right?
Yep. Insistent terminology. This is the agents / spies where they keep correcting one another, which is very good.
Yeah.
And the posthumous character, who is, of course, Reggie's husband.
Right.
And that's about it. In
I
terms
heard
of
you
the
mention
TV
the
tropes.
That's Not My Office,
Not
which
My
is the hustle one, and also
Yep.
the monologuing villain.
Mm.
So we did have a monologuing villain when Cary Grant managed to come up behind Hamilton Bartholomew as he's trying to tell Audrey Hepburn how clever he was
Yes.
to dupe her
Yep.
with the office steal.
Mm.
So that was quite good.
Yes. And that's pretty much it, I think. Again, thank you all for your support of HitchPod. If you're listening to this, that's because you've helped us go along, get us to the point where we can afford to do a bonus podcast on a regular basis.
And this one was a real.
It was really good. So
fantastic.
thank you for voting this one in.
Yeah.
If somehow you're listening to this and you aren't already a HitchPod supporter, well done somehow. Good hacking. But we would appreciate it if you did become one at some point. Just go to patreon.com/HitchPod to join us over there. And as this was our third of the bonus episodes we've done, we've already done Peeping Tom and the Spanish Prisoner. Where are we going to rank Charade in the list?
Well, do you want to go first? Where have you put it?
Okay, it's an easy number one. It's no doubt about that. I had Peeping Tom as my previous number one. This one definitely trumps Peeping Tom, or number one.
Yeah, I'm with you. It would probably make my top 10 of the Hitchcock
Yeah,
movies
right.
as well.
Yeah, it was very good,
I'd
wasn't
be
it?
putting this above Dial M for Murder, but that's partly because I think Cary Grant would make every Hitchcock movie better as
Yeah,
well.
that's true.
Of course, because North by Northwest is my favourite. But I just want to remind people that you're getting older as a woman when you find Cary Grant with grey hair attractive. And this was when I turned 30 was
Yeah.
the moment when I went, Cary Grant looks all right with grey hair, and so does Sean Connery, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
So this is a definite moment where you know you're aging, and I still think Cary Grant is the best ever lead character. So Charade definitely my number one, and I think the main reason and the number one in my eyes is which one is more Hitchcock
Yep.
out of those three. So Charade, followed by my number two is The Spanish Prisoner, followed by Peeping Tom.
Yep.
And I think the fact that it turns from serious murder to instant comedy is the main criteria.
Yeah,
So it's a
because
classic-
you definitely love
yeah.
the comedy of Hitchcock, don't you?
Definitely. It's a classic Hitch signature. So all of that, the moments of suspense sort of parlayed with the riotous humour and Hepburn being so terrific at that. The strong female lead is a definite necessity for me as well.
Yep.
And that sort of creeping tension followed by everyone laughing,
Yep.
which would have been just so much fun in the actual cinema. And, and you don't get to see Hitchcock movies or even any of these old movies in the cinema
Yeah.
that often. But if you do get the chance, it's just wonderful. So
Yes.
I think it's Charade, Daylight, The Spanish Prisoner,
Yep.
Peeping Tom.
Yeah.
But I do love those other ones as well. So,
I think I agree. I think Charade, Daylight, Peeping Tom, Spanish Prisoner.
Yeah. And we look forward to seeing some more pseudo Hitchcock movies because this is such fun.
Yeah, so we'll be back on the regular feed later this month. So we're doing Jamaica In, so just keep an eye out for that. You know where to find that. And our next bonus episode, which will probably be in February, will be Double Indemnity, because that one actually tied with Charade in the voting. So I can't remember why we chose Charade first. I think we just flipped a mental coin. Maybe it was alphabetical order. And but Double Indemnity's up next, so you can look forward to that in February.
And if any of our Patreon supporters can think of another movie that is Hitchcockian, even if it's a more recent release, that would be wonderful for us to review. Likewise, if you can think of one that you would like us to Hitchcockify at the end of our regular episode, we like to do movies that people have generally seen, and so we'll often pick a more recent movie, but it's been really good fun Hitchcockifying. I think the last one we did was Love Actually.
I think it was
Is that
Love
right?
Actually,
Yeah.
yes. And of course you can contact us. You can follow us on Twitter at HitchPod Tweets. You can go to our Facebook group and contact us there. We're very easily contactable. So just track us down, and we will see you all later this month.
See you later.
That was Charade. Next month on the free feed, we'll have another Hitchcock-esque episode from the back catalogue, Billy Wilder's Double Indemnity from 1944. Of course, if you're on Patreon, you can listen to that immediately as well as a whole heap of other episodes. We've also just dropped the third episode of Season 6, our discussion on Bicycle Thieves from 1948. If you want to listen to this and all our other episodes, please consider becoming a HitchPod supporter. Just go to patreon.com/HitchPod, and for just $2 a month, you get early access to every movie we cover, as well as the opportunity to suggest future movies for us to watch. Go on, pay the $2.
Roger, pay the $2.
If you're not in a position to support us financially, that's fair enough. You can also help us out by leaving an honest 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube or wherever you listen. Anything that will help new listeners find us. Sharing our episodes on Blue Sky or Facebook is also much appreciated. If you have thoughts on this or any other of our episodes, you can find us at hitchpodonline.com. That's also how you find us on Blue Sky or Facebook. Plus, you can always email us directly at feedback@hitchpodonline.com. Thank you for listening.